Hello world, it's Dave again, and this video is more specifically directed at Wendy. So funny little story, I just spent the last 10 minutes going through your email, Wendy, and answering your questions, and thinking I did a pretty good job of going through everything. And I realized that when I had hit the record button, the program had not refreshed that I'm using. So I talked to myself for about 12 minutes. So that was ridiculous, but it's given me a great warm up for my talking points now. And yeah, I've read through your email thoroughly as I went back and forth and talked to myself. So I should have good answers to your questions, I hope. So I'm just going to move through them one by one, referring back and forth to the email, and I hope, to the best of my knowledge, to be able to answer the questions that you put in front of me here. So let's start working through the email round two as I actually record this. Okay, so one of the first things that you say is that after research, you've come to the conclusion that the TESOL is not actually that useful in applying for a job teaching English in Japan. And you've really hit the nail on the head here. 90% of the people I've met have never had the TESOL. It would be useful, I think. I'd never say that you shouldn't do something not to explore experience. I think it's good when people do the TESOL because you're just experiencing something different. You might be that much better a teacher when you get here because you've done something like that, but it's not going to make or break whether you get the job. So that moves me well into, I do want to speak about what you need to get the job here. So one thing that I hope you can respond to me in an email after this and tell me your level, but your level of Japanese is very important for the sort of plan that you had suggested that you might go through. So also, yeah, it is. Anyways, I'll just keep going. I'm not going to remake the video for that little pause. Okay, so the requirements that you need to teach in Japan are this. It's basically that you would have grown up going through an English system, I believe for 10 or 12 years in an English system. So they know that you have been speaking English for ages. Second to that, you need to have a post-secondary degree from a college or a university, and it does not matter the topic, whether it's, you know, film study or a degree in English. It doesn't matter. You just need to have that degree. And that is kind of the 12 years, 10 years in an English speaking institution, and then a post-secondary degree of any kind from an English speaking institution. And you're good to go. So you're from Australia originally. I don't think that's a problem. The only question that I wasn't sure because I didn't see it in your email was if you do have that post-secondary degree. And I think that would be almost absolutely necessary. You would have to have that in some form or another, be it a college or a university. So that's that out of the way. Now you know what you'd basically have to have if you were to apply to these schools. Let's move on to the next question. So I have a few questions. My plan is to move to Japan first, travel for a few weeks, settle down, and then begin to look for a job through both job listings and applying by any private small schools around the Tokyo area. Do you think this is realistic? I think I will find a job within 3 months of applying. Do you think I will find a job within 3 months of applying? This is something I need to consider financially. So, excuse me. Absolutely reasonable that you could find a job within 3 months of applying. The only thing that I mentioned already earlier is your level of Japanese. Now, if you speak fluent Japanese, then this direct application is no big deal whatsoever. Not a problem. Because you would be able to read all the forms when you met with the people who would have you in the interview. You could speak Japanese to them, and it wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. But if you don't speak Japanese, this direct application idea that you have, I think, would be very challenging. Again, I believe in the human spirit and that most things can just be overcome by your will, but you'd be setting yourself up for a real difficult ride if you can't read and speak Japanese to apply directly, whether it be a private school or a public school. This is why I will then enter into my next suggestion is that I think it would be in your interest because it sounds like you're coming to teach English. It's not like you're coming here to teach, you know, science or something like that, and nor do I think that the Japanese school board actually allows foreigners to teach in these other subjects. It has to be Japanese citizens. Um, but if you are coming to teach English, why not then apply through one of these other intermediary companies that can allow so much of the pressure off because they're usually English-based companies. The people who run them are English people, or there's tons of English people involved with them. And the three companies that I'm aware of, but there are more, I'm sure, are Peppy Kids Club. They, I applied to them at one point. They deal specifically with private schools more, and I know people who work for them, so I can also, you know, hammer out a few more questions for you if you had some questions concerning them, and they're private school oriented. And then there is the JET program and another company called Interact. And the beauty of going through these intermediary companies is because A, you have them there with a ton of English speakers, so when you apply, you're going to go and speak to somebody in English. B, they help you with all the work visa applications, and they're a sponsor for you. And C, they help you with placement. So they're going to actually like create a sort of resume beyond your resume for you, and they're going to go to the school board and say, we got this person, they seem great, could they work for you? Um, and where you say is 3 months enough, I think 3 months is especially enough if you apply to these kinds of companies, because usually the application process is long, but half of that is because you're outside of Japan and they want to know if you're going to be somebody who can handle living here. Well, you've already lived here, you're already in the country, and so you remove half the application process. You're in good shape in that respect. So there's just a myriad of reasons why going through these intermediary companies is really, really good. The visa process, speak English, help you with your placement, all these different things. And if you're here to teach English, why not take advantage of that? You could then, if you'd like, say you get the solid full-time job from them to begin with, and you start to get into the culture, you've got a work visa. I know a guy who works for these companies who then started to independently apply to private schools, to private lessons, and he does all kinds of work, but it was with this backbone to his staying that he was then able to branch out a bit more, just because he had the job security provided by them and could start to move into other things. And if he wanted to, even after a year, transition only to work for these other places that he'd worked alongside, or whatever. You got tons of options at that point. So when it comes to applying by yourself individually to these schools, I think it's very difficult. I believe in the human spirit, and I think you could try if you have great Japanese or just want to really, really try. But bear in mind that if you did that, it would be quite difficult, more and more difficult if you can't read and speak Japanese, whereas you don't have any of that if you go through the companies that I'm suggesting. Also, one final benefit of these companies that if you do apply through them, they have a long-standing relationship with the school board. And so when they go and say, can we place this person, the school board trusts them for the placement, and you get a lot of, less, can this person actually handle the job, because they trust the company that's putting you into the job. So that's good. You're benefiting from their reputation of placing hundreds of English-speaking teachers. Okay, you said, is it okay if I've never spoken, if I don't have any experience teaching English? And yeah, that was basically it. If I have no experience teaching English, like I've already described in the video, this is a non-issue. I never had any experience with it. It's just those other prerequisites that I mentioned, the time spent growing up in an English-speaking institution and the degree from a post-secondary institution. Those are the things that matter, not that you've taught English before, not that you have a TESOL. Let's see. Your final question here was, do you think that because of your ethnic descent, that there would be there would be added difficulty to the interview process? This becomes a question again of direct application or going through one of these intermediary companies. Direct application, I think that it might affect it, because there is that stereotype that it's white people who speak English. Stupid stereotype, but it's one that exists. A lot of white people speak English. And so if you come here and you're from, or you're Vietnamese, although you've grown up in Australia, there might be some misconception there if you apply directly. I can tell a little anecdote here where one of the guys that I know who works on the company that I work for, he got to his school, so it's a non-issue. It's not actually going to affect him. But people there were kind of like, "You speak English?" And he's East Indian, but is from the UK. And he was like, "Yeah, I eat, speak, and write English. Like it's no issue whatsoever." And they just kind of laughed, like, "Oh, that's crazy." And when somebody saw him writing in English, they were like, "Oh, you can write English too." And he was like, "Yes, I grew up in England." Um, but there was that misconception you can see even for him, even when he's placed in the job. And so I can't speak from experience, but kind of an educated guess might be that if you did direct application as opposed to intermediary, that it would add to your difficulties. But no issue whatsoever because you have the reputation of the company backing you if you go through Interact, Peppy Kids Club, or JET, or one of these other ones that acts as an intermediary, because like I've already mentioned, they have the reputation of the company saying, this person we've selected and will put forward to you as a fantastic candidate, and we have a huge history with you where the people that we give you are fine and excellent teachers. And so it's not an issue at all. So that's the two sides of the coin that I wanted to discuss in regards to that. Yeah, so there you go. I feel like I've tried to move through and answer the questions that you had. If you don't want to go with these companies, like I've said, and you just want to go through with pure human spirit, I think that that's admirable. It's a good thing to do, but it'll be a little more difficult. I would suggest the road of these intermediary companies. They can just help you with so many aspects of the experience that it's really, really useful. And then be here for a year and transition out of them if you want, or re-sign with them if you enjoy the experience, which I have. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm going to re-sign for another year, and I'll be staying at the same schools that I got, and it's been fantastic. When you come over, given 3 months to find a job, not a problem, but make sure that you have a contingency and that you do have some money saved up between $3,000 and $5,000, whatever it is, just to get your plane ticket back home if things don't go exactly to plan, because that's just life. Sometimes it doesn't. But that's it. So I made this video so it'd be a little more personal. You'd have the questions answered as best as I could. But if you do have more questions, we can just do a little email correspondence. I can hammer out any further details. There's actually a final note. There's referral programs that exist for these companies that I've mentioned. I could even look at getting you referred to the company that I work for. So you already have that door open to you. I could speak to the Peppy Kids guy, and maybe there's a referral program for them as well. You got a lot of options because you reached out to speak to somebody who's already in the biz. But yeah, let's keep talking, and I hope things go well for you. I hope you get to follow your interest and end up here, because I think it's fantastic when people do this and broaden their perspective. It's been a world of change in my own life. I will be forever altered for the experience that I've had here, and it's just good to travel. It's just good to travel and see new places and broaden your horizons and perspective and all those different cliches that I could run through at this point in time. So yeah, thanks for checking out this video. I hope it's been useful as I've explained the questions and re-explained them unknowingly just as I've rambled along. And any further correspondence, please do send me an email and I'll answer further questions that you have. I'm looking into the referral process in my company right now, so I'll even just send you an email once I know a little bit more about that, if I can help you in that way as well. So yeah, hope it's useful. Anybody else who checks this out, feel free to send me an email with your questions. I can try and run through them as well. It's my goal to help people. That's why I made this channel. All right, cool. So until we meet again, world, and Wendy, like I like to say, thanks for tripping with Dave. Ciao for now. Peace.